It's hard to believe it's been 5 years since I graduated from high school. I have already graduated from college and am going to a reunion of 5-year high school. He wasn't the most popular kid in school. In fact, most people thought I was a computer expert. I was a normal height and weight, but because I didn't play sports and was more into computers than most people, I was considered a geek. I gave the valedictorian speech and only got an A in school. I was also voted the most for success. I hung out with the so-called student geeks. I think I have more in common with them. I never understood why children always laugh at other children. It never made sense to me to make fun of someone for being smart. In my last year, I became friends with many students. I spent little time with most of them, but they were very kind to me. I helped many of them study. I never had to learn much. Everything happened naturally. It's true that I never had a relationship in high school. Like any man, I have preferences for different girls. That's what Sandy, one of the cheerleaders, told me. We were friends but never dated. I remember telling him that one day he would like to date me because I would have my own business. She is the beauty of the school, so everyone wants to hang out with her. She is still very dedicated to the athletes. And then there's Isabel. There's something special about her. She is of mixed African-American and Italian descent. She was my friend from school, but she wasn't allowed to date me because I was white. One day I went to her house and her black father said to me, "Honey, don't get me wrong, but I don't want Beth together right now. Please understand that this is not about you personally. This is not about you. About how I want her to understand black culture and stay away from it. I cannot believe this." Beth returned to her room in tears. I left the house wondering what I had done wrong. I told my father about this when I returned home. He told me that some black people are just as racist as some white people. He told me that it might work sooner or later, but for now I have to listen to it. After all, she was his daughter. The next day I saw Beth at school. She told me that she and her father had a fight over me. He told my father that he liked me and that I was a good person. He became even more angry and forbade him to see me. I asked her if it was okay to date a black man, and she said she needed her father's approval first. I asked her what her mother thought about dating since she was white. She said her mother told her that one day she would be able to make her own decisions on her own, but from now on she would have to listen to her father. I know my senior year I saw her hanging out with the football players. She is also a cheerleader and often hangs out with the athletes. I met with girls I knew several times, but we didn't have sex. The first time I went to a university party, but that's another story. I'm going to a meeting. As I mentioned earlier, I finished my studies and started my own IT company. For a young man, I did pretty well. I actually started my own business my freshman year of college. My father gave me an advance, which I returned, so I went to the meeting as a businessman. I was given the title most likely to succeed. I went to the welcome party and it was great to see all the kids in the class. Many of them have changed. After logging in, I walked around and chatted with my so-called geek friends. Most of them have higher education and work in various companies. Some of my sports friends have changed a lot. Some go to university, others drop out or don't get a scholarship to go to university. Almost everyone present at the meeting has a job. I learned that our class lost 4 people. 2 died in service, 1 died of leukemia, and the last committed suicide. It really makes you think about the fragility of life. I should note that I am no longer considered a data expert. I work out in the gym and am in very good shape, but not muscular, just toned. I thought I could handle it myself if I had to, but I never had any discussions. While I was drinking beer, a beautiful blonde approached me. I knew it was Sandy. As the saying goes, she builds it like a brick house. She ran up to me and kissed me on the lips. I have to say, I didn't expect this. I'll speak first. "Hey, Sandy, you're as beautiful as ever. What have you been doing for the last few years?" "Hi, Roberto. My God, nice to meet you. I heard that you had your own business and returned to our great city." I moved out of state to go to college. I was offered a full scholarship for the trip and decided to take advantage of the best opportunity. Yes, I prefer it this way. Now I prefer to be called Rob. A lot of people call me Jones, but you can call me whatever you want. So did you go to college or something? I attended community college for 2 years, received a bachelor's degree in business administration, and worked as a secretary at Montgomery House. So now you are married, divorced, and dating? She asks. There is no woman in my life yet. Would you like to apply for this position? I laughed. That sounds like a proposal to me, he said, laughing. Maybe I'll tell you. She leaned forward and kissed me again. Damn, she's hot. I spent the whole night talking to everyone. Sandy keeps coming back to me. Several people have told me things about Sandy since she graduated from high school. They said they still thought she was beautiful, even though she had graduated and worked as a secretary at Montgomery House. I asked them what that meant, and they told me that she dated a lot of men. "Are you looking for Mr. Right, or should I say Mr. Rich?" Bob explained. Bob told me that she was engaged to a man named John for about a year, but it didn't last long. She seeks security. Only the rich can preserve it. Brad, the boy she dated in high school, was a grade above us, so he didn't come to our party. After graduating from college, he worked for a local company. You may also be unable to meet your financial needs. I asked about Beth, but no one seemed to know much about her. I really wanted to see what kind of woman she became. She didn't respond to the pre-order, so of course it didn't show up. I met several of his close friends at least 5 years ago. I was told Beth did well and graduated. Last they knew, she was married. It hurt a little inside. I don't care if she's mixed race. I really care about her. At the end of the party, Sandy came up to me and asked me to call her. She kissed me again and I went home. I couldn't believe my luck. The prom queen, the cheerleader everyone wanted, asked me to call her. I mentioned that I have my own IT company. I have 2 good people working for me. Although I rent a small building, I usually work from home. Of course, I go to the office every day and check that everything is ready. I also have a great receptionist who makes appointments and answers the phone. It's cheaper to pay a secretary and have my boyfriend fix the computer. I handle most large commercial jobs that require me to go on site to perform installation and repair work. The following Monday, I called Sandy and asked if she wanted to join me for lunch. We met at a local restaurant and talked about old times. The way she talks to me, you'd think she was an old friend of mine or something like that. She said that she always loved me and regrets that we were not together. You have to understand that although I am smart, I am not that smart. I'm a very naive person. Sandy is looking for money and promises to people. It was probably me, but I didn't realize it at the time. All I could see was sex with a sexy girl. My hormones are working overtime. I can't say I like it very much, but I really want her panties. We started dating and had sex on our first date. Sandy is hot. This girl is a real sex machine. From the moment we walked into my apartment until he returned home the next day, the entire night was dedicated to sex. As I mentioned, I dated a few girls in college, but none bigger than Sandy. We did more that night than I've ever done in my short life. Sandy would come over about 3 times a week and we would have sex. We'd been dating for about 3 months when she asked me to marry him. I asked her why she was so worried, and she said she was pregnant. Of course, I told her that I would marry her, especially since I got her pregnant. We wanted to have a very small ceremony and get married in front of a judge and a few witnesses. I told my parents about marriage and pregnancy. They didn't like it very much, but they did what I wanted. My father advised me to sign a prenuptial agreement in case the marriage did not last long. I told him I would do it. Here I must say a few words. Sex with Sandy was amazing. From her I learned a lot about sex. I can't say I was in love with Sandy, but I enjoyed sex together. One thing that really bothers me is that Sandy is amazing. I couldn't learn this overnight. I often wonder how many sexual partners he had. We agreed never to talk about it, which was probably a big mistake on my part. Like I said, I'm not sure I love Sandy, but I got her pregnant and she's my baby, so I'll do what's right for the baby. About 2 months after we got married, I started looking for aspirin. Sandy was working and I was looking around. For some strange reason, I even went through our drawers. I knew Sandy had a lot of makeup in one of her drawers, and I thought maybe she had Excedrin or something. I didn't find any aspirin, but I did find her pill. I debated whether to tell her about my findings or wait to hear what she had to say. I'm a little angry right now. I don't like to be taken advantage of, and that's exactly what Sandy did to me. I remember watching an episode of Desperate Housewives where the husband replaced his wife's birth control pills with sugar pills. I decided to do this. I went to the pharmacy and found a product that was as close as possible to their pill. I then went home and replaced the remaining medications for that month with the pack of medications she will take next month. It wasn't easy, but I did it. I made sure that Sandy and I had sex almost every night. A few days later, I checked and found out that he was still taking his medication. After about a month and a half, Sandy said she wasn't feeling well. He felt nauseous and nauseous. I told him it was probably due to pregnancy. She looked at me and said, "Rob, I thought the pregnancy was a false alarm. I was afraid to tell you because I didn't want you to think I asked you to marry me. I wonder how long it will take him to find an excuse." The problem is that if I divorce him and we sign a prenuptial agreement, she won't get much. I wonder if she's telling the truth. Sandy, you can trust me. Isn't that what marriage is all about? He waited a few seconds before answering me. No, of course not. I don't take pills. It would have happened anyway. She tried to force a smile, but I knew she was lying to me. Yes, you better take the time to see a doctor and get treated for the flu or other illnesses. I'll make an appointment for you tomorrow and pick you up at lunch. I knew I shouldn't argue because I felt like he had lied to me about the pregnancy again. I made an appointment and went to his house. At lunchtime, he went out and got into the car. I took her to the clinic. I actually went in and sat with her until it was time for the physical. Before we left, I told the doctor that I thought I was pregnant, but I wasn't. After the examination, the doctor asked Sandy to wait with me in the waiting room. Then he called us both into his office. There was a wide smile on his face. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, you will finally become parents. I would say in about 7.5 months. Congratulations. No, it must be a mistake, Sandy replied. That's right, Sandy. That's why I asked you to wait in the room while I check again, the doctor replied. I looked at Sandy and said, isn't this great? Eventually, we will become parents. Before Sandy could speak, I leaned in front of the doctor and kissed her. I thanked the doctor. We got up and left the office. Sandy didn't say much. She ended up taking the pill and saying no. Now she is trapped in her own lies. I told everyone about the baby so Sandy wouldn't do anything stupid. She was worried about her figure and is now pregnant again. Months passed and our sex life continued, but Sandy's thoughts were elsewhere. One day I asked him if he should quit his job and stay home. She told me that she would never leave her job. I wasn't sure what to do. When he was about 6 months old and started showing symptoms, he told me he didn't want this baby. She didn't talk about it before because she thought she would like the idea of becoming a mother. She told me she wasn't fit to be a mother and didn't want this child. She considered having an abortion, but it was too late. No doctor would perform an abortion at 6 months, and she would probably give the baby up for adoption. I was shocked. I told him that even though I was pregnant with a boy, he was also my son. When we got married, we thought we would have a child. I thought we would be a happy couple. I would not allow her to have an abortion or give up our child. Honestly, I can't believe a mother doesn't love her child. I feel sad every time I think about it. We discuss our children every day. She said she would get it, but it wouldn't affect her life. She was too young to stay home and take care of a child. If I wanted this child, my job would be to take care of it. From that day on, I knew our marriage was in danger. It should be noted that Sandy was raised by her grandmother. His mother was single and pregnant. After the baby was born, she left Sandy's baby in the care of her grandmother. Sandy said she only saw her mother a few times when she was a child. She moved to California to become a star. I don't think he got any film contracts other than as an extra. Sandy must have inherited her mother's beauty. I suspect she also inherited some of her mother's personality traits. She never knew who her father was. His grandmother is still alive, but she is over 60 years old. I talked to her and she wanted to be a part of our children's lives, but of course she couldn't take care of them. My mom and dad were happy with the child. They were saddened by Sandy's hostility towards their children. After all, the child did not ask to be born. I'm sitting here now thinking about the joke I played on Sandy. God, I would never have done this if she had told me the truth. She got pregnant, and it was my fault. Now it is my responsibility to give this child the opportunity to live a good life. With a mother who doesn't care about her and a stupid father, I think the boy became hostile towards her. Yes, it's a girl. When she was born, she was the sweetest, most innocent little creature I've ever seen. She is very beautiful. I immediately decided to give him a good life. He would be the kind of father I would be proud of. After the birth of the child, our family life began to deteriorate. Sandy was doing chores at home. Honestly, I thought it would change my opinion about children. Finally, he left his body. It was part of her. I hired a full-time nanny who treated Abby like her own daughter. Abby is short for Abigail. I named her after Sandy's grandmother. Every week, I take Abby to her great-grandmother's house. His great-grandmother loved the boy. What a cute baby. We can't help but love him. I think that's why Sandy started working more hours. She didn't want to stay home and be with her daughter. I asked Sandy if she thought we should all seek help or advice. The desire to not be a part of your child's life must be rooted deep within you. Of course, she said. My only problem is letting you talk me into having kids. You should sue the birth control company because their pills don't work. She looked at me in shock. He realized what he had just said. I looked at her and just stared. I didn't say anything. She thought she knew what I was thinking. The case is now open. Why did you lie to me to marry you? Why didn't you tell me you didn't want children? Is it always about money? I asked. I love you, Rob, but you've never proposed to me. We've only been together for 3 months. If you weren't pregnant, why are you in such a hurry? My past. If you knew what kind of men I was with, you probably wouldn't have married me. I want a secure future, and I know that you have always loved me. Unfortunately, I was thinking about what to do next. I thought the marriage would end soon, but I would continue to work hard for my daughter. The next morning, I went to the office and got a call from the Montgomery House secretary. I was a little confused when I found out that Sandy worked there. I called again and asked if I could talk about setting up the computer. If he could get it, it would be a big deal. I didn't want to say anything to Sandy in case she didn't understand. I walked up and was greeted by the administrator. Sandy worked on the 18th floor, and I worked on the vice president's floor. Jim Smith greeted me. I smiled as I introduced myself. My name is Rob Jones. There's definitely something about the names Smith and Jones. We decided in advance to call each other by name. Rob, I heard that your company is one of the top companies looking for IT jobs. Yes, we try to satisfy the needs of our customers. We try to give our customers what they want, what you need. It seems like the system is new here, I replied. To be honest, Rob, we want to install a surveillance system. The building owner installed the system, but we need our own system. Someone inside forged some company documents and sent the information to our competitors, jobs. If you look at existing security cameras, wouldn't you be able to see who is in the building at what time? Isn't there a system that allows security guards to keep track of who is in the building after hours? I asked. Rob, the answer to both of your questions is yes. My secretary, Madam, Jones believes that most of our employees have keys to the building and offices and therefore should have the means and know how to get around. She recommends that your business install small security cameras and perhaps hide them in legal locations, because we don't want anyone to know where they are except me, you, and of course members of our legal team, so we don't know. No laws were broken. Do you think you can handle this? No problem, Jim. Just tell me where you want cameras and computers monitoring. I would like to meet this Mrs. Jones and thank her for the recommendation. We could keep that in mind, I said, smiling. I doubt you are related. I'm sure she'll talk about it. He's leaving for a few days for personal reasons. Maybe you can see it next time. Rob, I know that your wife works in this building, and I asked you not to tell her about this. We want as few people as possible to know about this. No problem. I'll make sure she doesn't know. If she sees me, I'll tell her that I'm here to work on the computer. Now, if you show me your idea, I'll give you my proposal. We'll see what best suits your needs and still makes money. We quickly toured the area, and Jim showed me several different entrances to the classified computers. He explained that they created 2 computer networks. The first network is available to all employees, while the second network is available only to senior employees and some junior managers. The second computer is only accessible to personnel from the 22nd to 24th floors. This still gives access to a large number of people working on those floors, or managers having access to those floors. Jim was pretty sure someone would come in after hours and use the computer to record information, taking too many risks during normal work hours. I asked Jim for passwords to access the computers, as well as login times, personal codes, login codes, or other methods they could use to track which computers were being used. He explained that there is a universal code that gives access to computers, and then a private code that allows employees to use all network resources. I suggested to Jim that since there are so many computers, he should let me install a program that records network logon times during non-working hours. It will also provide us with the code entered by the user. I also suggested installing hidden weather cameras inside each front door. It activates when the door is opened and takes a photo of anyone who enters after hours. By synchronizing snapshots and computer login times, we can limit the number of potential attackers. Jim liked my ideas because they didn't invade anyone's privacy. Your computer will be the only one that will be able to see who enters the main office during non-working hours. I asked him if he needed additional permission, but he said he would let his lawyers handle the matter but didn't see a problem. I wanted to make this knowledge available to as many people as possible. I told Jim that I would go see my wife on the 18th floor in case someone saw me and told her. I know many people who work in the construction industry. When I got out of the elevator, I didn't see my wife sitting at the table. I could see her sitting in the corner of the junior director's desk, because the door was not completely closed. This seems a little inappropriate to me. I asked Tara, the other secretary, if she had seen Sandy, loud enough to know that Sandy would hear me. Tara looked at me and looked a little embarrassed. Almost immediately, Sandy came out of the principal's office and asked what I was doing there. "I'm right around the corner and thought we could have lunch," I said. "Oh, I was hoping you would call first. I have a meeting and lunch today. Maybe we can have lunch another time." He faked a smile. I looked at Tara, but she didn't look at me. I thought Sandy was lying to me or that she didn't want to have lunch with me. I told her that I would see her later. I kissed him tenderly and went to the elevator. As I walked through the manager's door, I checked his name, Dave Conrad. I'll have to remember this for future reference. 2 days later, Jim called me. Our plan had worked. I gathered the equipment and supplies we needed and returned to set up the equipment. Jim told people I repaired computers and that gave me access. I took an assistant with me so we could do it faster. As usual, before I leave the office, I check a bunch of emails. I received an unusual letter. The letter read, "Private, please open my heart." I thought it was a company selling Viagra or something like that, but it was a personal letter. He said, "Robert, I think Sandy is cheating on you. I just think you should know." Since the letter was not signed, I decided to find out where he sent it from. The sender tried to cover his tracks, but that's my business. I checked 2 email accounts online and then went back to the computer in the Montgomery building. Apparently, the anonymous letter came from someone who worked there, but from whom? This worries me because he seems even more distant since Sandy had her baby. Now I have to wonder if this child is mine and if this letter is true. I decided to call Sandy and tell her that she was having her computer repaired at home and asked if we could meet for lunch. He said he would have to check with his manager before contacting me again. So I told her that I would meet her at the office. This seems a little strange to me. She's just the general secretary. Why do you always have to work during your lunch break? I'm feeling a little suspicious. We entered the building with boxes of equipment and headed to Jim's office. I left my gear and went to visit Sandy. Surprisingly, she was sitting at her desk. When I approached, he told me his lunch hours were open and kissed me tenderly. I looked back and saw that David's door was closed. Something is wrong with him. I told Sandy I would see her in a few hours. Then I went over and started setting up hidden cameras. My assistant and I ran cables in Jim's office, and I had a headset so we could talk to each other. On the 22nd and 23rd floors, I need to connect lines to other computers. Otherwise, connecting all the lines to Jim's office would be very expensive. We simply placed a headquarters on each floor and connected cameras to computers. No one will know about its existence, so they won't look for the image. I configured Jim's computer to connect to a network of computers on other floors so that he could download photos of everyone who entered those floors onto his computer. I told him I would come back in a few days to see how it went. I stopped during lunch to take Sandy to lunch. She asked me what I was doing there. I told him that some computers were not working properly and I would fix them. He told me that several people had seen me with Vice President Jim. Yes, he called me. Apparently, the company that fixed your computer couldn't get there fast enough. I'm lucky because this client is quite big. I added, and a few people looked at me a little strangely just to see their reaction. But it wasn't because Jim kept most of them away. This made Sandy a little nervous. He told me that he thought he might have to spend an hour or 2 with me tonight. I asked him why he had been working so much overtime over the past few months. She responded that she wanted to move on, so she always volunteered when asked. He suggested that it was more difficult for him to climb the career ladder when his son was born. Everyone said he should stay home with the kids. I just let it go. I couldn't sacrifice my son for his career. After installing the equipment, I had to visit our IT office again to submit additional materials. I went to my email and received a new letter. "Robert, I'm sorry to tell you about Sandy. I heard that an old friend of his was working for the company as a security guard in the Montgomery building, and I thought he was smart to know that. His wife and I lived in the same house. I work in an apartment building, signed friend. Although I was surprised, I was still skeptical. I need to think about what to do next. I won't live like this." Returning home, Sandy went straight to the shower. I then tried to have sex with her and she resisted for a while, but eventually I allowed myself to spend as much time with her as I wanted. If she's good, she'll never be able to say no. Damn, she's so good. I really hoped that he wasn't cheating on me, although I saw how he behaved. I waited a few days before returning to Jim. He told me that the security cameras seemed to be working fine. He showed me some photographs he had. There are cadres of managers and secretaries who work until late at night. There are also photos of guards making their rounds. I noticed a security guard who looked familiar. This is Brad, Sandy's old school friend. I haven't told Jim anything yet because Brad doesn't seem to be doing anything out of the ordinary. Jim notes his manager's arrival time. He was surprised that so many people were late. This makes it difficult to detect violations. As we looked at some photos, I was surprised to see Sandy walk through the door. He followed his boss Dave through the door. I asked Jim about Dave and he told me that he was the new manager and Sandy was his personal secretary. Jim checked check-in times and was surprised that some managers were not logged in but were on the upper floors. Dave is one of them. He quickly panned the camera forward to see how long Dave had been with Sandy. This lasted almost half an hour. They are on the 22nd floor. Another director and his secretary walked for half an hour to the 23rd floor. A few days later, Jim called me again. He asked me if I could visit him. This is both professional and personal. I didn't want to discuss this over the phone. When I arrived at his office, he was watching the surveillance video again. Rob, I think I have some issues to work out. Mary, my secretary, and I were discussing some notes. We decided to install another hidden camera in a cozy room. We have a cozy room downstairs. We use the 23rd and 24th floors when we bring clients and talk to them in a more comfortable space. They are set up like a living room with comfortable sofas and chairs, he said. No problem, Jim. We can install more hidden cameras. Do you expect the room to be abused after hours? I asked. Jim, was Sandy involved in all this? Tell me, this is also a private matter. Since the monitoring was established, Sandy has visited one of the managers about 3 times after leaving work. That in itself doesn't mean much since he's her boss. The strange thing is that they never signed, so everything is fine. As I said over my shoulder, if they want specific information, there is no reason for them to come here. There was no point in anyone being there on time, so they spent about half an hour here. I hope we're wrong, but we can't do this without evidence to convict someone of wrongdoing. I understand, Jim. My marriage is very difficult right now. I also need to know the truth. I answered. Maria, my secretary, mentioned that the security guard also has a strange schedule. He spent too much time on the 23rd floor. One day he appeared just as his wife arrived. I don't know if any of you know this except yourselves. I started school around the same time as the security guard. Jim said his name was Brad Evans. As for me, I knew him. He was an old friend of Sandy's. I shook my head sadly. Yes, yesterday he was here again. Of course, I was supposed to come check on the office, but Mary said that yesterday someone hacked into our records and used his wife's boss's ID, which Dave Conrad provided. We were the only ones who got a photo of the door. It was the security guard, Brad. We wanted to know if Brad was a data theft suspect. We recently changed our IDs every week, security warning. We think Sandy is giving him ID, he said. Despite my doubts, it was difficult for me. It still hurts a lot when you find out. Now I have to install a program to get the credentials my business needs, which could cost me my marriage. God, my marriage is still a sham. The only one who came out was my little girl. Sandy called me the next day and said she was going to work late. I called Jim to tell him the news. I want him to know. He thanked me and said he would keep me posted. I wanted revenge. So I called Sandy after work and told her I installed cameras in the comfort room. I thought the damage was already done. I heard her scream, "No, God, no, you didn't do it." And then she hung up. It was getting late and Sandy should have gone home by now. I was holding my daughter in my arms and thinking about how much her mother wanted her when the phone rang. This is Jim. Rob, get here as quickly as possible. Sandy is dead. A wave of shock washed over me. I was completely shocked. It took me a minute to come to my senses. I didn't even ask him what was going on. I just said I'd be there. With tears in my eyes, I held my little girl in my arms and she looked up and smiled at me. My feelings are so complicated. I called my mom and told her that something happened to Sandy and she died. My mother was screaming on the other end of the line, "Oh my God!" I told her I was going to drop my daughter off and would probably stay with her all night. I need to find out what's going on. While I was in shock, I took a few things for my child. I think I was in a bit of shock. I left Abby, hugged my mother, and headed to Montgomery House. When I entered the lobby, there were several police officers there. I told them who I was, and they each took me to Jim's office. Jim was also a little surprised when he hugged me. "I'm so sorry, Rob. I went into the office to check the camera and found that Sandy had been killed. We checked the camera and found that it belonged to Dave. The police are now taking him home for questioning." Don't think you'll see this band, Rob. Jim, what does it say here? Does this show murder? I asked. No, it's Sandy and Dave having sex. I think someone found the camera after they went and cut the cable. We don't have a murder, but as if no one knew there was a front camera, we do have a photo of Sandy Gav. Enter the door with the guard, Brad. A warrant has been issued for his arrest. We believe Brad committed murder. The police have questioned me and need to talk to you. Jim and I were practically free. I told the investigators that I told Sandy about the cameras, but only the cameras in the break room. Although I did not kill Sandy, I am partially responsible for her death. If I hadn't told her about the camera, she might be alive today. Dave is being interrogated. He was shocked to learn of Sandy's murder. He said no. He loved Sandy. They divorced and got married. Investigators showed him the video in the living room, and he began to cry. He had a sexual relationship with Sandy, which was his last. I like it. I really like it, he said. How did she find out your password? Asked the researcher. Dave looked at the officer. She told me that if I loved her, I wouldn't keep secrets from her, so I gave her my password. You have to trust me. I love her and I would never hurt her. She didn't want children, so I did it. Even a vasectomy last month to show her my love. She wants to come home tonight and tell her husband she's leaving him, and honestly, it's true. Dave started crying again. The officials let me go but told me not to leave the city. The hunt for Brad Evans has already begun. The next morning, investigators called me and told me they stopped Brad as he was leaving town. He said he didn't kill Sandy and we have no proof. I think he thought he destroyed the camera, and we couldn't prove anything. He saw images of him and Sandy leaving the room together for a few days, then images of him and Sandy returning to the comfort of the room and just him leaving. He couldn't resist and told his story. Sandy left him several years ago because she did not have the financial means to support herself. He said he was devastated by her loss. He discovers that he can steal important data from the Montgomery Foundation and sell it on the black market. It costs a lot of money. He then took a job as a security guard at the Montgomery building and began dating Sandy. She will sleep with him. He will convince her to get the password and share the wealth with her. He said sex with her was always the best. He thought that once he got the information and sold it, she would go with him. When she told him that for her it was just sex and she didn't want to go with him, he got angry. One night she approached him and told him that her husband had installed a camera that showed them having sex. They had no idea how the camera worked or how long it would last, so he found it and cut the cable. He said he told Sandy they should leave town right now. She laughed at him and said she wouldn't get fired for having sex. He fucked half the people in the building. Brad said, "It hit me like a ton of bricks. I loved her and did everything for her. I just stole from her and she laughed at me." He held the knife in his hand over and over again. When I came to my senses, I removed everything I had touched and left the building. I loved her, but she went too far. A few days after the funeral, Jim called me. He expressed his condolences again. He was at the funeral a few days ago. He said he had spoken to the board of directors and they wanted to know if I would be interested in managing their account. Apparently, Brad has CDs in his car with all the information about his latest releases. He didn't have time to deliver it. By quickly deploying our monitoring equipment, a company can potentially save tens of thousands of dollars or more. The board also fired Dave and another manager for having a sexual relationship with a secretary in the building. This cannot be tolerated in this industry, especially for married employees. Of course, I said I wanted the report, and Jim asked me to come this afternoon if possible so we could talk over lunch. I told the nanny I might be a little late and asked if I could stay if needed. When I kissed my little girl, she told me everything was okay. For readers wondering if Abby's baby is mine, it is. They ran tests on me, but I still have them. This represents a large part of my life. None of this is your fault. I went to Jim's office. I got some weird looks last week, but life goes on. Jim asked his secretary, Mary, if she could go with him. I said, of course, because he was the first person to recommend my company. Jim mentioned that he needed to clean up a bit before leaving and said he could introduce me to Mary. When I walked into the office, it said Mary Jones. The woman looked at me, and it was Beth. Tears welled in her eyes as she walked around the table and hugged me tightly. She is very beautiful. It doesn't look black or white. She looks like a dark-skinned Italian girl. He must have inherited the best qualities from both his parents. Beth, it's you. Is this really you? Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you call? I asked about you, but no one saw you. Have you changed your name? I asked. Calm down, Robert. I'll explain everything to you. I miss you too, honey. You were my first love, although we never did anything, she smiled. My name is Elizabeth Marie Jones. Yes, I said Jones, just like you. Unfortunately, I married the wrong Jones. After graduation, I got a job here as a secretary and they liked my work, so they promoted me to manager. Jim is my closest supervisor. As you know, he's a very good guy. Why are you changing your name? I asked. I didn't start using my middle name until college. I didn't live to see the reunion because I was in the hospital. I filed for divorce and now I'm separated. I just haven't changed my name yet, she said, laughed. Does Jim know that you know me? I asked. He didn't do it at first. After I hired you, I told him I knew you. At that moment, Jim entered. I'm glad I hired you, Rob. I'm so sorry for everything that happened, but you provided our company with exceptional service. Well, if you're ready, we can go to lunch. Since our meeting, I have remained in close contact with Jim and Beth. Every time you call, I guarantee you will receive fast and efficient service. He wanted to ask Beth out on a date, but was afraid of rejection. Finally, I remembered what his father told me many years ago. Sometimes we went out to lunch together, but I always felt tension between us. I'm sure Beth feels the same way. I should mention that we talked about his email about Sandy cheating on him. She said Sandy never recognized her at work. Naturally, they move in different circles. Dating was common when she was single, but did not stop after she got married. Beth was devastated when she found out she was married to me. One day, his boss Jim talks to him and tells him that someone is hacking into the computer system. When he mentioned me and my company, he also thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about Sandy's adventures. She told me she knew what it was because her husband did it to her. Over time, Abby and I settled into our lives. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. It's hard for me to explain, but being a father is a big responsibility, especially since we are now a family. It's Abby's first birthday and I'm going to pick up Grandma Sandy. She is still a part of little Abby's life. Of course, I was very sad about Sandy's passing, but I wanted to be part of the family and get to know little Abby, who was just like Sandy. My parents came too. Someone knocked on the door and I opened it. It's Beth. I'm here at a party. Hope you're okay? Your father invited me, he said. I looked at my father and he smiled. You talk about her all the time like she was part of the family and your mom and I wanted to meet her, Dad replied. I felt a little awkward, but I introduced Beth to everyone. I asked her if she wanted to be called Beth or Mary, and she said that her old friends always called her Beth. When someone asked Mary, she knew it was a business. She even looks beautiful with jeans and a shirt. She sat down and Abby half walked, half crawled towards her. Oh my God, you're such a beautiful girl, he told Abby, picking her up and hugging her. I would like to have a girl like you. Abby hugged Beth and hugged her back. Beth continued to hug her. Happy birthday, Abby. Is it your birthday today? She asked. Abby simply nodded. Dad asked Beth about her work, school, and other things, not only to ask her questions, but also to make her feel more comfortable. After all, I still talk about her like my parents. Mom stood up, called everyone into the kitchen, and sang happy birthday to Abby. She then cut the cake and we talked and watched Abby open her gifts. Sandy's grandmother, Abby Sr., took photographs. She is a truly good woman, but she has faced many problems in her life. My parents knew her well and often invited her home. Some people feel lucky. After the party, while everyone was playing and talking to little Abby, Beth and I sat on the porch and talked. Why are you here today? I asked. I know it's Abby's birthday, but why are you here? I think Abby really likes you. You are the reason I am here and you know it. I was waiting for you to ask me out, but you didn't. 4 months after the tragedy, Jim and I were having lunch. One day I was very worried about you and I got tired of waiting. When your father called me, I decided to take the first step. God, Beth, I want to take a few hundred steps. I'm afraid to ask you out on a date. I know we are older, but I don't want your father to hate me and be angry with you. About you. You know, my feelings for you haven't changed since high school. Then go on a real date with me. Dinner, a good show, and who knows, maybe you'll get lucky on a second date, he laughed. Beth, where are your parents? I really hope you like it. Does your father still have problems with white people? Beth smiled. You know, I had a miscarriage. I never told her that my father beat Tony to death after my ex Tony pushed me and I fell. He told her that if she reported the attack, he would leave and get to work. You try to date me, he will give up. You were in college and I didn't have a chance to tell you. Okay, let's go out next Saturday and then our second date. If you still want to date me after this, I will tell your father. I will make him love me, I smiled. So you want to try your luck before you talk to my father, she asked. So it's true, I laughed. Our first date went great. She was as radiant and beautiful as I had always imagined her to be. At the end of the night, she kissed me. He's sweet and passionate. After the third kiss, she said, "Wait, Robert, this is our first date. You recorded a single and I like it as much as you do, but a deal is a deal," she said, laughing. "Let's go tomorrow," I suggested. "I have a better idea," Beth said. "Let's take Abby to the aquarium so she can see all the fish and everything. The only problem is that you'll be out of luck until the next time you meet." "It's not a date, it's more of a family outing. I just want to be with you, and I hope you like it, Abby," I replied. "Do you like her? Like?" "I want her to be mine," Beth said. "I don't care if she has blonde hair and blue eyes. She's the sweetest little girl I've ever seen in my life." The next day, Abby, Beth, and I went to the aquarium, and I held hands when I wasn't pushing the cart. I feel like we are family. On the way home, I stopped at Beth's parents. We all got out of the car and headed towards the door. Beth almost laughed. I do not know why. Beth's mom opened the door when she saw us and smiled at me. "Please come in," he said. "Mrs. Durant, is Mr. Durant home? I want to talk to him." Mr. Durant entered the room. Beth stood behind me and hugged Abby, and her mother was next to her husband. "Durant, my name is Robert Jones, and I would like your permission to date your daughter. I talked to you about 7 years ago, and I made the mistake of leaving. I would love Beth, and I have all my heart for her. Darling, I know that we are adults and we don't need your permission, but I don't want there to be any hostility between us." "Take your time, son," Durant said. "People might think you're going to ask her permission to marry her." "With all due respect, sir, this may happen in the future. I mention this so we all know where we are," I replied. Madame Durand spoke. "Ted, tell the boy the truth. Robert, Beth and I talked about you for a long time. You have I don't mean permission. We don't mind Beth dating you. Blessings to you both. For marriage, why did you mention it again?" "Well, Mrs. Durand, as you can see, I have a daughter, Abby. She is my pride and joy. When we get married, I just want you to know that you will have a beautiful blue-eyed blonde granddaughter," I answered. Mr. Durant reached out to hug Abby, and Abby walked towards him. She hugged him and kissed him on the cheek. "Robert, if we get married, I will love this girl without hesitation." We both laughed as I shook Mr. Durant's hand and gave Mrs. Durant a small hug. Beth, Abby, and I left the house, and I drove Beth home. After kissing him goodnight, Abby and I went home. I asked my mom if I could watch Abby next Saturday. Beth and I wanted to go to a concert and have dinner out of town. We probably won't be back until Sunday afternoon. I want to tell you, dear readers, how lucky I am. How wonderful it is not to tell the world about this. I felt like I had won a grand slam. She looked beautiful when I held Beth in my arms. A blue dress with a low cut that exposed some of her breasts and ended a few inches above her knees. I asked her if she was wearing panties, and she slapped me and laughed. Like I said, Beth looks Italian. She's half Italian and has a nice dark tan. We were in a motel room and I looked into her eyes. "Do you want to do this?" I asked. She turned and said, "Please open this for me." I slowly unbuttoned her dress and dropped it to the floor. I unclasped her bra and it quickly matched her outfit. Now she was there, wearing lace and silk panties. She turned and kissed me. "You are so beautiful," I told her. "I haven't had sex in a long time," she said. The last time she talked to me about it was right after she got pregnant, about a year ago. I asked him if he wanted me to use a condom. She told me she was taking birth control pills. I love her so much. We started to love each other. Slow and easy sensual love. Before I arrived, I heard her say, "I love you, Robert. You should know that this is more than just sex. I really love you." I heard what he said when he arrived. "I hope this is serious and not just a fling. I hope this is true. I love her forever." A few minutes later, she said, "Robert, I meant it when I said I love you. I hope this doesn't disappoint you. The only man I'm with tonight is my ex-husband. I'm afraid I'll win. That's not enough for you." Beth, you were one of 2 girls I coached in high school. I wasn't a very sexual person. Sleeping with you was my dream. I never wanted it to end. You and I will study. If you want, I'll do it for you if I can. If you have me, I will be with you for a long time. She smiled at me. Rub my breasts very gently, then suck my nipples until they get hard. After that, I want to ride your hard cock and make love to you. I want to ride you until you can't ride anymore. Come tonight. So I want to ride you until you can't ride anymore. I want to hug you, sleeping next to the man I love. Saying this, I started rubbing her breasts. We continued to meet and knew that we were a couple. We planned to be together for about 6 months and then announce our engagement. No one was surprised when this happened. We just felt it was right to let time pass. I remember telling Beth that she was the first black woman I had ever dated. She looked at me and told me that I should be the last white or black woman to sleep with me. He then told me that I was the only white person around him and that he planned to keep it that way. Our wedding was very small, just family and a few friends. I remember Beth's father saying she didn't even need to change her name anymore. It's funny that out of everyone at our wedding, Abby chose to sit in Mr. Case, Durant's knee. I must say he was a proud grandfather. It's not as biased as I thought. He looked more like a loving father. Of course, Beth is a wonderful mother to Abby. She does everything with her. I look back and think about life and the differences between people. Sandy was a beautiful woman who could have it all. A decent job, a loving husband, and a beautiful daughter. He decided to give it all up and look for something better. And there's Beth, another beautiful woman who wanted to start a family but ended up meeting a dissatisfied man who wanted more. Her idiot husband took Beth's baby. Beth's parents did just that. My parents did just that. Even old Abby, despite all her difficulties, has a wonderful great-grandson. I believe that life is what you make it. Of course, not everything is perfect, but we need to make everything possible. If you work hard enough, you can achieve it. Don't worry about what other people have. Look at your life and the life of your family, and see what you can do with what God has given you. Beth, Abby, and I proved it could work. A computer geek, an incredible mixed race, and a beautiful girl. Who would have thought that we would be the perfect family?